Hello, welcome back here to Lady Loves Said Reads. My name is Jessica and this is my October 2025 reading wrap up. I like to read books from all different age groups, from middle grade YA to adult, and I read all different genres. Really the only genres I don't read a lot of are sci-fi and westerns, although I am starting to read more sci-fi lately. I rate books on a 5-star scale. Anything that is a 3-star or higher, I recommend. I also tend to film my wrap-ups in different sessions. So you're going to see changes in the angle, outfits, lighting, etc. I'm sorry if that's annoying. It's really the only way that I can get these wrap-ups done is to break them up into separate filming sessions. I don't really have any stats figured out for October. I've kind of stopped doing my stats because it's been too time consuming. But I'll probably take some time at the end of the year and do like a big overview and figure out what my stats are for the end of the year and just do like a video on it then. I can tell you that I read 12 books in October and I participated in one readathon. It was the Halloween readathon. Halloween is hosted by Stormy at Storm Reads. She hosts it every year and it's a readathon dedicated to reading middle grade horror in the month of October. I love the Halloween readathon and I actually read quite a few books this year for it, way more than I did last year, which was a lot of fun. I've had a slight change in plans. This is actually going to be my October and November wrap-up video. That being said, when I talk about the books that I've read in the month, I like to play the game MASH, which is a numbers game we played in the 90s. It predicts your future, like what kind of house you'll have, what your job will be, and that kind of thing. So what I do is I draw 4 books from the apothecary jar. I put the titles of all the books I read in the month in the apothecary jar. So all the books that I read in October are in here. Then I draw 4 titles. Then I put each of those 4 books in a MASH category. So the categories are house, and for that I pick which book I'd like to be a part of the setting or the world in. Another category is friend or family group. Pretty self-explanatory, which book would I want to be in the friend or family group. The other category is job, also self-explanatory. Of the 4 books, which would I want to have a job in, or which job would I want to do? There's some verbal gymnastics for you. And then the last category would be crush or partner, romantic partner. Of the 4 books, who do I have a crush on? And I can only put 1 book in 1 category. I can't double up. So let's draw the first round. We're starting with October books. Garfield Bigger Than Life by Jim Davis. Glassheart by K. Ellis Marshall. Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Knight by Stephen Banbury. Dead Voices by Katherine Arden. Interesting. Picked like all my middle grades in this one. Oh, that was actually really easy. Okay. Garfield Bigger Than Life by Jim Davis. This is the 3rd bind-up of the Garfield comics. It was 128 pages and published in 1981. I don't know what to say about this. This is just Garfield. It's just the Garfield comics that were published in the newspaper in a bind-up. In the 3rd book, we meet Normal, and that's that. I love Garfield. If you've been around here, you know this. It's like part of my brand at this point. I gave Garfield Bigger Than Life 3 stars, although 3 stars on paper, 5 million stars in my heart. For MASH, I picked Crush because John Arbuckle, I think he's crush-worthy. He's clumsy and sweet. Glassheart by K. Ellis Marshall. This is book 3 in the 13s trilogy. It's 272 pages and was published in 2022. This is a middle grade horror. And in this series, it follows 3 kiddos. They live in a city called Eden Eld where every year 3 13-year-olds go missing. And so they're trying to figure out why this happens. This story has elements of the supernatural in it. It has elements of fairy tales in it. And they solve a lot of puzzles. So if you like a middle grade that does a lot of puzzles, like kind of in the vein of Winterheart by Ben Guterson, or Puzzle Heart by forget the name. If you like those like puzzle themed middle grades, you would probably enjoy this trilogy. I gave Glassheart 4 stars. It was also one on my SAS list. So I wrapped up another series for my SAS list, which is exciting. For MASH, I picked Friend Group because they're the sweetest little friend group. Dead Voices by Katherine Arden. This is book 2 in her Small Spaces series. It was published in 2019. It was 245 pages long. This is middle grade horror. And it's also about 3 kiddos that are friends. You know, the Small Spaces series and the 13s trilogy are very similar. And sometimes in my brain they overlap. But it's 3 kiddos again, and they are kind of being haunted by this thing, and I can't say more than that, but in this installment they go skiing, and at the ski resort some scary things happen. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. For MASH, I picked Job because I'd love to work at a ski resort, not because I know how to ski, but because I like the cold. All right, next we have The Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Night by Stephen Banbury. This is book 1 in The Pumpkin Princess. I don't know how many books in this there are going to be, whether it's a trilogy, a duology, or what, but this is book 1. It was published in 2024. It's 334 pages long. This is also a middle grade horror with strong fantasy elements. She's in a whole nother fantasy world in this. So what happens in this is there's an orphan, and the Pumpkin King, this giant jack-o'-lantern, adopts the orphan and takes her to his land where she becomes the Pumpkin Princess. And unfortunately, someone has stolen either the sun or the moon or something where it's just dark all the time. So probably the sun, maybe both. And so she's got to figure out why this has happened, because it's gonna require her to do that to like save some people that she cares about. I really enjoyed this. I loved the universe and the characters and all of the magical creatures in this. Some parts of the mystery were really fun. Great for its age group, like its target audience. I gave it 4 stars. And for MASH, I picked Setting because I would love to go visit this magical realm. It just sounds so cool. Thunder is going to be joining us for this round. He's being extra cuddly today because it's super cold outside. All right, let's pick 4. Yeah, buddy. Which one is it? Tell me. Tell me. The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. Nocticadia by Keri Lake. Are you getting down? Cats. The Haunted Mask by R.L. Stine. And the last one, Silence of the Flans by Laura Bradford. The Haunted Mask by R.L. Stine. This is number, I wrote 1. I think I meant either 10 or 11 in the Goosebumps series. It's 121 pages and was published in 1993. This is middle grade horror, the classic Goosebumps series. And in this one, there is, as the title suggests, a haunted mask. I read this for Storm's Readathon Halloween. I enjoyed it. Not my favorite, but a fun little time pass of a read. I gave it 3 stars. And for MASH, I picked Setting. Yeah, Setting. I think any of the Goosebumps books would be fun to experience in real life, as weird as that may sound. Nocticadia by Keri Lake. This is an adult dark academia dark romance. It is 682 pages and was published in 2023. I read this on Kindle Unlimited. This is about this school called Nocticadia that exists on an island, and the school's like Ivy League, run and owned by the richest of the rich. There are secret societies. The main character gets a scholarship there to study this parasite called Noctisoma, and her professor is running this experiment and doing research on Noctisoma, so she ends up being his teaching assistant. And a lot of things happen. It's a long book, a lot happens. I enjoyed this, not so much for the romance, but actually for the dark academia elements. You know, the secret society and all of the academic politics between the professors and the program chairs and the grants and all of that. I thought the research experiment and the science fiction elements of this were really cool. I liked the dark gothic vibes. I would really love to see Keri Lake write just a straight dark academia. I think she would do that really, really well instead of, you know, a romance with dark academia. So I gave it 3 stars, but this is one I would definitely read again when I just kind of need some escapism. For MASH, I picked romantic partner or crush. There are a lot of different people in this story that are crush-worthy. I do think the main male character is crush-worthy, although not really my type, if that makes sense. The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. This came out in 2021 and was 354 pages long. This is an adult literary historical fiction, and it's a difficult read. So it's about the war in Turkey, like on all the violence that happened between like Turkey and Greece and that area of the world. I really didn't know much about, you know, the conflict that happened there, and this was a good sort of educational piece to learn more about that. This book did bad things to my mental health. It was very graphic in ways that I did not handle well, so I ended up feeling pretty awful after reading this story. But it was very well written. You know, when a book can make you feel something to that degree, it's usually a sign that the writer has a lot of skill and that it's a really powerful piece of art. I gave it 4 stars. Tread with caution if you decide to read this one. For MASH, I picked Job. One of the women in this, her job is to find the remains of people who died in this war and, you know, identify the remains and restore them back to the families. And being someone that's like really interested in search and rescue and finding the lost, that's been a real major interest area of mine for the past year or so. I think that would be a fascinating job. The Silence of the Flans by Laura Bradford. This is an adult cozy mystery. It is 281 pages, was published in 2017. This is book 2 in the Emergency Dessert Squad trilogy, and I read this as a trilogy along with my friend Mr. Francie at Mr. Francie Read. We did a Sparklestead co-production between our 2 Discords, and it was a really fun thing to do. I hope we get to do it again in the future. So the Emergency Dessert Squad is about a baker, and she loses her job at a bakery and inherits an antique ambulance. So she retrofits the ambulance to be a mobile bakery and calls it the Emergency Dessert Squad. And then she solves a bunch of mysteries and crimes along the way. And I thought this one was good enough. As I'm talking about it, I'm getting it confused with the last book in the trilogy because the mystery in the last book really stood out to me. Okay, second book is coming back to me now. So the mystery in this surrounds something going on at one of the universities. And I actually did really like the mystery in this. I thought it was a unique take on the topic. It was unlike other mysteries that I've read in cozy mysteries. I've read a good chunk of cozy mysteries, not like extensively, but enough that I've seen a lot of repeats in terms of the mystery part of the stories. And so I felt like this was a pretty unique mystery, actually. Take a drink every time I say mystery. I gave this 3.5 stars, and for MASH I picked friend group because the main character has this group of older friends that are like 70 years old or older, and they are just the sweetest friend group. The way that they care about each other and show up for each other and are just a constant presence in each other's lives, to me is probably my favorite part of that trilogy. I think this is the last from November or October, and then we'll get into November's books. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. The Ghost Next Door by R.L. Stine. Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. And that's all that's in here. So I guess that's it. That's the round. Let me just double check my Goodreads. I think the one I'm missing is Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembke. Alright, let's start with Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembke. This is nonfiction, adult nonfiction, and it's about like America's dopamine addiction. And she really does talk about it as an addiction and uses like addiction science to talk about dopamine addiction. And I didn't think it was good science. I also thought she was really stigmatizing, and she failed to address neurodivergence in this one. So I gave it 2 stars. For MASH, I picked Job because I could probably do better research. That sounds so arrogant, but I do think I could do better research than what she presented. So The Ghost Next Door by R.L. Stine. This is book 10 in the Goosebumps series. It was published in 1993 and is 124 pages long. This is about a young kid who thinks that her next door neighbor is a ghost. And then there's a wild twist at the end. I really enjoyed it, thought it was a fun ride, a good installment in the series, and gave it 3 stars. For MASH, I picked Friend Group because some of these kids are, they just cracked me up. They're really funny, so they'd be fun to be friends with. Oh, also, I read that for Halloween. Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. This is an adult classic, a gothic classic. It was published in 1872 and is 108 pages. I read this for my in-person book club that I've been going to. They meet every other month. And this is a vampire story. So Carmilla in this is a vampire, and she is essentially like got this new target in her sights. She's engaged and locked in to this young girl, and she manages to manipulate her way into this girl's life. It's a very sapphic story. And for it being a classic and written in 1872? Yeah, 1872, the language is really accessible. I mean, it wasn't hard to read. And I think people of a lot of different reading levels would be able to read and understand it. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I liked learning about like different vampire lore in this. For example, part of the lore in this one is that one of the ways someone became a vampire was they committed suicide, which I thought was a different approach to becoming a vampire than other things that I've read. I'll definitely reread that because it's short and it's creepy. Like Sheridan Le Fanu nailed like the creepy factor in this. So very much enjoyed it. It's a great read around Halloween if you're looking for a really spoopy Halloween read. For MASH, I picked Setting because I'd love to just be a fly on the wall and observe this story taking place like in real time. Last is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This was published in 2025 and was 358 pages long. It's an adult romance, a contemporary romance, and it's book 1 in the Say You'll Remember Me series. So hopefully there's more because I loved this. So this is about the main male character who's a veterinarian, and the female main character works in social media. She finds a kitten, and the kitten needs like a medical procedure, so she brings him into this vet. They don't like each other at first. They have some banter. She ends up doing some fundraising to raise money to take care of the cat's medical needs. and then they keep in touch and things go from there. It's a good illustration of like a long distance relationship because the female main character's mom is struggling with dementia. So she moves back home to help her family take care of her mom. So there's also like the element of like being a caregiver for parents who aren't doing well. There's the dementia factor. There's also an on-page death that happens. So there's like trauma in this, but it's not obscene amount of trauma. This is like normal life trauma. You know what I mean? It's like the normal things that you deal with when you get to be a certain age as an adult. And I thought that Abby Jimenez handled it really well. I love the way that the two communicated. Like there wasn't a miscommunication trope in this. They were adults in the relationship. They handled each other well. They dealt with their own baggage well. And both of them had their flaws, but they were able to like work through it in healthy ways. Like I feel like it was just like a really good example of what a romantic relationship could be. And there isn't a single thing that I would change about that book, so I gave it 5 stars. And I'll definitely continue reading from Abby Jimenez. This is only the second one that I've read by her, but the other one I read, which was Part of Your World, I also really liked that one. So she may be a new favorite romance author for me. And then for MASH, I picked Romantic Partner. Either one of them. Next round, and we are into November books now. Dial M for Moose by Laura Bradford. Silence Fallen by Patricia Briggs. Stop Walking on Eggshells by Randi Kreger and Paul T. Mason. And I'll Look So Hot in a Coffin by Carla Sosenko. Silence Fallen by Patricia Briggs. This is book number 10 in the Mercy Thompson series. It's an adult urban fantasy series. It was published in 2017 and is 371 pages long. I read about 80 pages of this before I DNF'd it. And I honestly think this is the end of the road for me and this author. This book was just so full of minutia and details that just didn't matter, that it read like filler. And it made the story really slow moving, really boring. And then it felt like the same story that she's told many times over, which is Mercy gets kidnapped by a bad guy and Adam has to find her. It's just a different bad guy. That's the difference. So, yeah, I DNF'd it. For MASH, I picked Crush or Romantic Partner because I think Adam is a good partner. I'll Look So Hot in a Coffin by Carla Sosenko. This is an adult collection of essays. It's nonfiction and it's kind of like memoir style essays. It was published in 2025 and is 240 pages long. I read it for Nonfiction November and I really liked this. She has a disorder and I can't pronounce the name of the disorder correctly, so I'm not going to try, but it's this really unique disorder that causes a deformity that's really visible for her. And as a result of this deformity, she struggles romantically and just with a lot of like people who are rude to her about it and things like that. She has a lot of like self-concept issues. There's issues with like eating disorder, and like she ends up having like a bunch of plastic surgery as a child to try and correct the deformity. And these surgeries weren't medical, they were purely cosmetic, which is another thing that she kind of works through in these essays. I thought it was excellent. I really liked learning about her experience and her perspective. I gave it 4 stars. For MASH, I picked Friend Group because she sounds like somebody I would just get along with really, really well. Stop Walking on Eggshells by Randi Kreger and Paul T. Mason. This is also nonfiction that I read for Nonfiction November. And it was originally published in 1998, but I read the most up-to-date version of it, which is the 3rd edition. And it's 280 pages. So this book focuses on a personality disorder called borderline personality disorder, and it gives the reader advice on how to handle someone in your life who has borderline personality disorder. Now, it is pretty like stigmatizing of the disorder. I feel like they really kind of demonize people with borderline personality disorder, but then I was torn about it too, because the reality is that people with borderline personality disorder can do a lot of harm, and that harm shouldn't be minimized. But at the same time, like, we should still treat folks with this disorder with dignity and with the perspective that they can heal and, you know, make changes in their behavior if they get the right help. So I felt kind of torn about that, about some of these stigmatizing elements of the story. Not the story, but of the book. It does give some really good, like, psychosocial skills that you can actually apply in your life. And I think that the psychosocial skills that are in this book, you can apply to anybody who is a difficult person in your life. It doesn't just have to be someone who's a diagnosed borderline, right? Anybody in your life who is just a generally difficult person to deal with, you can apply the skills that they describe in this book. So I do think it has a lot of value. So a lot of mixed feelings about that one, and I gave it 3 stars. For MASH, I picked Job because I would love to do psychological research. And last for this round, Dial M for Moose by Laura Bradford. This is book 3 in the Emergency Dessert Squad trilogy. This is an adult cozy mystery. It was published in 2018 and is 295 pages. This was the trilogy that I read with Mr. Francie over at Mr. Francie Reads and his Sparkle Cafe. It was our little co-production that we did this year. And this was probably my least favorite book in the trilogy. I've really enjoyed this trilogy overall. And I still had fun with this, especially with the actual crime that happens, because what happens is there's like this group of like performers. So there's like a mime and a juggler, like circus performers essentially, that are surrounded with this crime, and like the way that they discover the body, that scene is just so like silly because of all these circus performers and how they're behaving and things. And like, I had a great time with that and with those characters. I thought they were just so fun. I love a circus. I love stories about a circus. So I really did enjoy that. Overall, this book to me felt a little bit unorganized. So I think kind of tightening up the organization would have made it a better reading experience overall. I gave it 3 stars, and for MASH, I picked Setting because, oh, how I would love to be a fly on the wall and just observe all these kooky characters. They were so much fun. Next round, The Sirens by Emilia Hart. This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Grave Talk by Nick Spalding. This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. This is an adult mystery thriller. It's a new release, published in 2025, and it's 480 pages. This is about a group of true crime podcasters, and before they even like start podcasting, actually, I don't think they have a podcast for the whole first part of this book, but it's told from the perspective of one of the main characters, and she's like writing a book about her experience with this true crime group. And this group is made up of some folks that have access to things that make them more than just like true crime connoisseurs. They actually get involved in investigations. One of the members has a law enforcement background. Another member is like a super genius on the computer and is able to hack into like social media accounts and things like that. So they get hired as consultants for this one case, and things kind of spin out of control. I loved this book. There is some controversy around this book because I guess it's based on an actual unsolved murder, or series of murders in Idaho, I believe. And when I read it, I had no idea that that's what it was based on. So I read it without any of that background knowledge and really, really loved it. I thought it was well done. Something about the tone and the character development just really drew me in and kept me invested in the story. I don't know how I feel about this being based on crime. I guess the situation is fairly recent and people are really offended by it. People see it as lazy writing. I don't know how I feel about it. You'll have to decide for yourself how you feel about it. I gave the book 4.5 stars. For MASH, I picked Setting. It would be fun to be a part of some of these online discussions that this group has. Grave Talk by Nick Spalding. This is an adult contemporary published in 2024 and is 311 pages. This is about a woman whose husband dies and a young man whose older brother dies, and they both visit the graves of their loved ones on the same day every year. And so on that day they meet and they talk and they share memories and stuff. And the way that the book is set up is that each chapter in the book is 1 year where they meet up. And I DNF'd it. I DNF'd it because it just wasn't gripping me. I didn't like the writing style, but I could see a lot of other people potentially liking this story. So do with that what you will. For MASH, I picked Romantic Partner because the young man, he is training to be a doctor, and he's just kind of an interesting person that could be crush worthy. The Sirens by Emilia Hart. This was published in 2024 and is 337 pages. This is literary fiction with a lot of magical realism elements in it. So this is about sisters, and these sisters have an unusual skin condition where they break out in hives if their skin comes into contact with water. It also has a dual timeline where there's this timeline that looks at a particular historical event in Australian history where these ships in history are transporting criminals to Australia for their prison sentence. And so it follows this group of women that are being transported on a criminal ship to get to wherever they're going to end up serving their time, and that's just the horrible conditions that they were in and all the terrible things that they experience. And then the two timelines do end up converging in a really cool way. This one had a bit of a slow start for me, but I ended up absolutely loving it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. For MASH, I picked Family Group because it would be an interesting experience to be one of these sisters. The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. This was published in 2024 and is 400 pages long. I read this for nonfiction November. And this is about Gen Z and Gen Alpha and how their time spent with technology is shaping their brains and their social lives and things like that. And I didn't like this at all. I thought that the research was pretty shoddy, pretty shaky, not on solid ground. And the basic key takeaway of this was very much a duh. So the key takeaway is monitor your kids' use of screen time and tablets and anything tech. Monitor the time they spend on those things, monitor their social accounts. And then the second thing was make sure they play outside with their friends. Duh. For MASH, I picked Job because I feel like, I don't want to say this just like I did with Dopamine Nation, but I feel like I could have given them some better feedback on the research part of this. That sounds so arrogant, but that's just my honest take. I do have a research background. It's one of my skill sets, okay? I think this is the last round. Marcia by Tourmaline. Sworn to Silence by Linda Castillo. Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. Impact by Haley Jenner. Impact by Haley Jenner. This is an adult romance. It was published in 2019 and is 268 pages long. I checked this out on Kindle Unlimited. This is about a woman who has been assaulted and she carries that trauma with her, and she really struggles with panic attacks and mental health and things like that, and she struggles just to function in her day-to-day life. She works at a coffee shop, and one day this attorney is at the coffee shop working on a case, and they get to talking. She develops a crush on him and things kind of go from there. I actually DNF'd this book because I did not like how the main male character, who is the attorney in this, acted like he knew what she needed better than she knew what she needed. They hardly knew each other, and he was all like, you gotta live your life. I don't like that at all. So I DNF'd it. For MASH, I picked Job because a part of me has always wanted to go to law school. Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. This is book 3 in the Nevermore series, which is a middle grade fantasy. It's about Morrigan, who was born a cursed child and was set to die on like her 12th birthday. Jupiter North comes and whisks her away into this magical land called Nevermore, where she discovers she has powers and she goes to a magical school. And this is the 3rd book in the series. I think this is the best book in the series. It's so fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. It really covers a lot of important themes from like trans rights to... And I remember when this came out in 2020 how timely it was, because Hollowpox is this virus that's infecting some of the characters in this story. And so a lot of this book talks about handling a virus when it came out in 2020, when we had, you know, the height of the coronavirus. So it was a little bit eerie in that sense the first time that I read it. And the second time I read it, I was able to just recognize some of just like the excellent writing of Jessica Townsend and her ability to create a complex story, a complex fantasy world, but also keep it really entertaining, high stakes, edge of your seat, lovable characters. Like, this book has everything you could want in a middle grade fantasy. So yes, I gave it 5 stars. For MASH, I picked Crush because I've always had a crush on Jupiter North. Sworn to Silence by Linda Castillo. This is book 1 in the Kate Burkholder series. It's a crime series and was published in 2009 and is 321 pages. In this one, the main character is former Amish. So she was born into an Amish family, went through her Rumspringa, and decided to leave the community. She works as a detective in this small community in Ohio that's a primarily Amish community, and that kind of gives her, coming from an Amish background, gives her an edge in these investigations because like she's able to speak Pennsylvania Dutch with the folks, and she's able to really understand the culture and all of the social norms and things to keep in mind about Amish culture when you're doing that kind of investigation. This was very dark. I was not expecting it to be as dark as it was. I would actually compare this to Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And if you like Karen Slaughter's writing, you would probably really like Linda Castillo. They are very similar. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It was really good. For MASH, I picked Friend Group because the main character, Kate, works at this small like police department, and all of the officers and like the staff and like the dispatch and everything like that, they have such a close-knit little friend group, and it makes the book that much more enjoyable. All right, and last, Marcia by Tourmaline. This was published in 2025 and is 320 pages. I read this for Nonfiction November, and it's a biography of Marsha P. Johnson, who was a trans rights activist in the 50s and 60s, really well known for being a big part of the Stonewall riot and for being a part of a lot of artistic initiatives and endeavors that support trans and queer communities. And I really like Marsha P. Johnson as a historical figure, but I don't like the way this book portrayed her. So this book read a little bit like hero worship in that they painted Marsha P. Johnson almost as like a Christ-like figure. Like she could do no wrong, and even the character faults that they mentioned, they kind of painted over and excused. And I don't like that. I don't feel like this was a balanced look at who Marsha was. I don't feel like it was a balanced look at her history. I think it kind of force feeds this Christ-like narrative in a way that makes it inaccurate. I do think that Marsha P. Johnson was heroic in many, many ways, but she's also a human being, and human beings are not perfect. And I did not appreciate the way that this writer kind of refused to look at some of these imperfections, right, in an objective way. So I gave it 3 stars, and for MASH, I picked Setting because it would be neat to, and not that I want to like experience any of these hardships, but it would need to kind of be a witness to some of these moments in history. Okay, that does it for my October and November reading wrap up. Have you read any of these books? What did you think about them? Leave your thoughts down below. If you are enjoying my content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling really at home here, consider joining my Discord. Everything's linked down below in the description box. If you just want to leave me an emoji to let me know that you're here, let me think. What were the best books that I read in these months? What were my favorite? Time out. Let me see what the best book of October, November was. One sec. Okay, I actually think my best book from October and November was The Sirens by Emilia Hart. So for the emoji, go ahead and leave me a mermaid. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye!